If you disagree with our decision, you do have recourse in the court of record. We also hear petitions for variations of land use. In matters of this type, we act as an advisory committee to the mayor and city council, making a recommendation either for or against it. Final decision on land use is made by the mayor and the city council. Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Darley?
Here.
Mr. Ferguson?
Here.
Mr. Graham?
Here.
Ms. Powers?
Here.
Mr. Riggs?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Hennessy?
Here. Well, we have some new procedures, a new format laid out before us today, so we're sailing in uncharted waters. But we have a clause now called citizens to be heard on agenda items. This section is for anyone wanting to speak regarding items listed on the agenda, except for items listed under public hearings. Anyone speaking on an agenda item is entitled to speak for 4 minutes.
Mr. Chair, we should probably just go back to you need to do the approval of the minutes first, and then we can.
Roll call, go ahead.
We did.
Okay, approval of the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now what do we do on this speech thing?
You want to continue? If you want to read the rest of that, it's up to you.
No, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
So is there anyone who wishes to speak on non-agenda items? Okay, let's go to new business, right?
Correct.
Petition 2018-14, Mr. Gutierrez. Want to come forward?
Petition number 2018-14. The applicant is Marcelino Gutierrez. He is the owner of the property as well. This is at 701 Plainfield Road. The request is a variation of use to allow a B3 general business use in a B1 neighborhood business zoning district, as well as a special use permit to allow an auto tire sales and repair facility in an existing building. The variation of use and special use permit requests must be considered by the City Council following the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the granting of the special use permit is contingent on the granting of the variation of use. Under site-specific information, the triangular-shaped lot is approximately 7,000 square feet in size, with 165 linear feet of frontage along Plainfield Road and 120 linear feet of frontage along Wilcox Street. The building was built as a service station in 1945. By the mid-1960s, the building housed a communications business, and this business, known as Communications Technicians Consultants, occupied the building well into the 2000s. The building was most recently Aaron's Cable and Wire and is now vacant. The case was filed on February 20th, 2018. The surrounding zoning, land use, and character are as follows. To the north is zoned R-3, 1 and 2 family residential, developed as residential. To the south is B1 neighborhood business, developed as commercial. To the east is R2 single family residential, and that is developed as a mix of residential and municipal. That's one of the fire stations. And to the west is B1 neighborhood business and R4, which is low density multifamily. And that area to the west is developed as a mix of commercial and residential. Applicable regulations are as noted in the staff report. Under discussion, the petitioner, Marcelino Gutierrez, seeks to open an auto tire sales and tire installation facility. That type of use is a prohibited use in a B1 neighborhood business zoning district, and therefore it requires a variation of use. An auto tire sales and repair facility is allowed by a special use permit in the B3 general business district. Therefore, this type of use also requires a special use permit should the variation of use be granted to allow the facility at this location. The building has been in existence for many years. It was built, as I mentioned before, as a service station around 1945. I've read some of this previously, so I'll just indicate that the building is now vacant. The one-story building has 2 garage bay doors that face into the parking area. The interior area for the business will include an office and desk area, a waiting room, 2 work bays, and restrooms. The applicant plans to create 4 parking spaces, including 1 handicap space in front of the building. If approved, staff would recommend the removal of the curb cut at the corner of Plainfield and Wilcox Streets and returning this area to grass in order to allow safer pedestrian uses of the adjacent public sidewalk. In addition, staff would recommend removal of the triangular area of pavement that is formed by the intersection of Plainfield Road and Wilcox Street and returning this area to grass. Exterior and interior plans are attached. The business will have 3 employees, including the owner. The hours of operation that are being proposed would be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The petitioner has stated that customer cars would be serviced within a half an hour. Vehicles remaining overnight would only be allowed to be stored inside the garage. Outside storage of overnight would only be allowed to be stored inside the garage. Outside storage overnight of inoperable vehicles and spare parts on the parkway or in the street will be prohibited. Testing of customer vehicles on the adjacent neighborhood streets will be prohibited. The approval of the requested variation of use and special use permit will allow or would allow the highway type business use in what is in an established neighborhood business area of the city. The city zoning ordinance stipulates that the processes and equipment associated with a B1 neighborhood business use shall be limited to those which are not objectionable by reason of odor, dust, smoke, cinders, gas, fumes, noise, vibration, refuse matter, or waste or water carried waste. The zoning ordinance further stipulates that for this type of use, no part of a building where repairs are conducted shall have any openings within 100 feet of any residential zoning district. The 2 garage bay doors are approximately 45 feet from the residential zoning district to the north. Staff also has concerns that the site will not have enough parking for the proposed use with only 4 available spaces for 3 employees and 2 service bays for customers. So with that, the next part of the report I will mention is that if the zoning board desires to approve the variation of use and special use permit, the following conditions would be included. 1, that hours of operation not exceed Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 2, that the first curb cut at the corner of Plainfield Road and Wilcox Street be removed and this area be returned to grass within 90 days of approval. 3, that the triangular area of pavement formed by the intersection of Plainfield Road and Wilcox Street shall be removed and the area returned to grass within 90 days of approval. 4, that no outside storage of customer vehicles be allowed overnight on city streets or city parkway or city streets. 5, that off-street parking must remain in the future. 6, that no testing of customer vehicles shall be conducted within the adjacent neighborhood streets. 7, that a city business license shall be secured prior to opening. And 8, that the variation of use and the special use permit granted shall herein terminate and lapse unless a building permit or a certificate of occupancy is obtained not later than 180 days after the effective date of the ordinance. I won't read the rest of this, which is a standard condition, but it's noted in the staff report. And then finally, condition number 9, should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and possible revocation of the variation of use and special use permit. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Petitioner, let's back up to the lectern, please. I must swear you in.
My name is Attorney Sarah Gray. I
Could you raise your right hands, please?
Sure.
Do you swear? Right hand. There you go. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I need your names and addresses.
My name is Attorney Sarah Gray. My office is at 1106 West Jefferson Street, Joliet, Illinois.
And you, sir?
Marcelino Gutierrez is 7 Manor Court in Joliet, Illinois.
Okay, any comments you'd like to make?
The concerns that the staff has with regard to the parking, I think in this situation would be mitigated because this is not just regular tires that he's selling. They're typically ones that need to be ordered, and therefore there would normally be appointments made in order to have the car, the owner bring their car in for the installation. It's not going to be like a Goodyear tire store where people are dropping in, or a discount tire where people are dropping in hoping to get their tires purchased that day and installed that day. That's not the normal basis for his particular business model. So I think in this situation, the parking that is available is plenty, given that there's 2 bays and 4 places for other vehicles to park.
It's only take me like 20 minutes to do the job, you know, it's not enough. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
he
10
states-
minutes for fixed tire, I mean, it's not much time.
What was that?
I'm sure you heard him, but he was stating that it only takes about 20 minutes to do a installation job. So the vehicles, even in addition to a lot of them needing appointments, the turnover is very quickly. So it's not going to be a situation where there's a line of people waiting with their cars on the lot to try and get in there. So
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
we're in agreement with the changes that the staff is recommending, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they want to close off the curb cut and put some grass, we're also in agreement with that.
Okay. Any questions by the board?
Yes.
Yeah. First, are you in business currently, or is this a new business venture?
This is the second one,
And where is your business located now?
in Crest Hill.
Where,
Crest Hill,
the address?
yes, at 2201 Plainfield Road.
What is that near? What's across street there?
It's at 2201 Plainfield Road. It's in
¿Qué es
Crest
el
Hill.
otro calle?
Sweet Briar. in the corner.
Sweet Briar.
Sweet Briar, yeah.
¿Qué otros negocios están?
Están allí especial, está un car wash,
Car wash?
ya, como la tienda de dólar de general. Bustos Bar.
Gustos Bar?
Yeah.
Oh, it Gustos.
Oh, okay, all right, up that way, okay. What about, do you have plans for signage?
¿Qué son sus planes para los signs? ¿Dónde va a poner?
Ya en los signs que están puestos ya, ponerlos ahí.
Ahí
Ya
en
está el
frente.
azul, ya el café, ya.
No,
Nomás
no
esos dos.
otros
No.
employees? Okay. Just, he's gonna put it on the front
On the
there.
front there.
You see on the photograph, there's already a sign there.
The blue sign, the red sign.
Okay, and what about tire disposal?
Yo tiro aquí.
¿Dónde van a colectar los
Adentro.
tires que necesitan?
Adentro.
Okay, he's gonna collect the tires inside, and there's a local place where he can take them for disposal.
Yeah.
Okay, and they would
He
be
already has those
collected?
contacts because he has another business. So.
Okay, and they would be collected only inside, there would be no tires stored outside?
Sí.
Correct.
Okay. One final question. With 4 parking places and 3 employees, where is the employee parking?
Ellos yo les doy right, yo los levanto todos los días. O sea que nomás ocupo un carro, mi carro. Y no manejan.
Okay. Van a llenar todos los.
Nada más uno, porque yo les doy right.
Okay. Only one other of the employees drives a vehicle to work, and the other ones, he picks them up and
Ya, yo
brings
les
them
levanto.
to work. So.
Now, at present, but that could change.
Ellos dicen que esta situación puede cambiar sobre el tiempo si sus empleados son su familia o no.
Sí.
Okay. It could change in the future, but right now it's a family business, and the people that he's picking up are family members.
Okay, how do you get your business? How do you advertise? You said there's specialty tires. This is online or?
¿En qué manera sus advertisos o tener sus clientes?
Sí.
¿En qué?
¿Cómo tenerlos cómo los agarro los clientes? ¿Cómo digo?
¿En qué forma es advertisement? ¿En papel o en newspaper o radio?
¿Cómo los anuncios?
Where, Sorry, my Spanish is not perfect.
My English too. Oh, ya en internet y en business cards.
Internet and business cards.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a concern. My concern is that it's too close to a residential zoning district, and there's not much you can do to change that. If the ordinance says it's supposed to be within, over 100 feet, this is 45 feet away, and that's pretty close. That's my concern. I mean, and I don't see that there's any way you can fix that, so that's just,
45 feet, I'm sorry, in the report, are you measuring from the bay door to the roadway or to the next house?
the zoning district, the district
Oh, the
itself.
district.
On the property line.
Well, all I can say is that there's an auto body shop across, a muffler repair shop across the street, across Route 30.
Is that what the ordinance says?
So it's not at all out of line with what's there. And we are creating that
Residential
grass buffer.
district, but the ordinance
It's not,
Sure not. To the property line.
gonna have late
Yeah,
hours.
it's 100. That's the
It's during
property line.
normal working hours for most folks. It's not gonna create, the work's gonna be done inside, it's not gonna create outside noise of any significant degree. And, the entrance, the ingress and egress is all going to be on Route 30, which is already, a busy area. And I believe, that's almost like a cul-de-sac then. Not, is there an entrance from Route 30 to that street? I can't,
Yeah, sí, it's
Okay.
right away.
yeah.
The petitioners would be responsible for creating that grassy area, not the city, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
What I wanted to ask, is it used tires or new tires?
Las dos.
New-
Las
Los dos.
Cuando
It's,
el cliente ordenan, quiere llantas nuevas, se las ordena. Cuando no,
mostly it's new tires. There are some used tires because people, if they buy a new car and it already has tires on it and they
Right.
want rims or different size
Mhm.
tires, then they're removing almost new tires and they may resell those.
So if someone came in and said, well, I want these tires for this, you would order them, correct?
yes.
Okay,
And,
okay.
Besides custom tires and rims, what other custom parts will you be putting on the vehicles?
and those
No,
one-
nada más llantas y rimas.
That's basically it, just the rims and tires. So if somebody buys rims for their vehicle, that usually entails a different sort of tire being installed as well. So the tire installation is incidental to the rim installation.
Well, a lot of the times you have to raise up the cars, don't you, in order to get the tires to fit under it?
Lo, eso está un mecánico que sí. para
En
que
otro-
levanten
otro
en
lugar? Okay, then they send it to a mechanic at a different location.
So it's gotta be done before the tires are even done.
In that situation, if it requires a lift, then it would have to go off-site to, for the lift. And en esa situación, los tires son instalados allí o
No, o sea, yo nomás, si alguien quiere llantas nuevas o rimas, las ordeno y mando a levantar el carro en otro lugar y yo nomás se las
Okay.
pongo.
so in that situation, once the mechanic's done, lifting the car, then, they would, in the meantime, be ordering the rims and the tires and then take them to the mechanic shop for them to be installed at the different location where the mechanic is. So they don't bring back a car with no tires and put 'em- just for the mere fact to put them on at that location. They would deliver the tires and the rims to the mechanic shop in that situation. And I guess a follow-up question you may have is why don't they do that all the time?
Right.
But that significantly increases the cost and it makes it much less convenient for the clients that don't need the lift, which would be a lot of them. Trucks often don't need to be lifted unless they're putting ridiculous, like much larger. If it's a big change, then it would need to be lifted, but very often like a truck or some vehicles, they already have the clearance for they're just maybe taking the ones with hubcaps off and putting shinier ones on.
Any other questions by the board? Comments? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone opposed? Want to come forward?
My name is Edward.
I must swear you in, sir. You swear the evidence you're about to express is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Name and address.
My name is Edward Andrade. This is my wife, Beatrice Young. We live at 706 Wilcox, which is right next to the fire station number 5, and across from 701 Plainfield Road. We had problems with the previous business over there because they kept parking on the street, and during the winter, they kept moving the snow from the lot into our side of the street. But the business is not there anymore. What I'm concerned is a very busy area over there. It actually is an unsafe area because you have quite a few accidents in that area. We, with the fire station over there, and they also park on the lot and they park on the street. And the residents on the Wilcox park on the street. It's a very full area of parking vehicles on both sides both sides of the street. I'm concerned about parking. They don't have enough parking in that area. That's the first one. Second, they have kids that live on the yellow house beyond the businesses. They play on that corner all the time when they come in from school and during the summertime. I'm worried that one of them, and they are about 7 or 8 years old, they get in every place. They might get hurt. The noises is a residential area, not a business area. We already had the muffler shop across the way, and they test the cars on Wilcox sometimes in a pretty noisy manner and racing up and down that street. I want a safe street, not a street with more businesses on the corner or more parking blocking access to the residentials. That's about it.
How long have you lived there?
I lived there since 1990. My wife owns that house. Actually, the parents lived there since 1918. They built that 1706, was a different number back then. Well, actually, I didn't know it. Her parents agreed to the variation for the original businesses, and later on to the subsequent business that was the ITT, or ITC, I should say, what was the radio businesses. And that's the one we have problems with.
In all the years you've lived there, have you had trouble with every business that was there? Because literally you're surrounded by business areas. You've got an R3, a B1, a B2, and a residential. Are you against any business going in there, or just one that would be disturbing? Because the property owner has some rights to develop his property.
The problem with no, I don't have a problem with the other. Across the street, you have a business shop. You have actually one on the corner and the other one on the side that also sell
So
food.
your objection primarily would be just, it would be too noisy, or if it disrupts the neighborhood?
Traffic, congestion, safety, and the noise also some, yes.
Okay. Board, do you have any questions?
You know what, I respect your opinion, but, you know, I think like Chairman said, he has a right for his business. I mean, and he has nothing to do with traffic, all other traffic. That's my opinion.
I have no problem with this business. I have problems with them having the business there on that corner. That type of businesses. A restaurant don't fit there. I don't know what will fit there, really. It's a small area for a business.
Well, the truth is, the reality is that it's never going to be for residences unless someone just wants to take the building down. It is a business location. So that's the only comment I have. Is there any other comments? Chair is going to close the discussion to the floor and ask the board for a motion and discussion. Motion would be in order.
I'll move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll.
Mr. Ferguson,
No.
Mr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Powers,
No.
Mr. Riggs,
No.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Ms. Darley,
No.
Mr. Hennessy.
What's the roll? Was it?
We have 2 ayes and 4 nays.
I'll register my vote with the majority. Vote no. Thank you. Petition 2018-15, Jeffrey and Rosanna Marchetti. Thank you.
Petition number 2018-15, the applicant and owner is Jeffrey and Rosaria Marchetti. The location is 723 Taylor Street. The request is a variation of use to allow the continuation of a carryout restaurant, which is a B1 neighborhood business use within an R4 multifamily zoning district located at 723 Taylor Street. The variation of use request must be considered by the City Council following the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under site-specific information, the property is located on the northeast corner of Taylor Street and Rayner Avenue and is approximately 3,920 square feet in size. The one-story brick restaurant is approximately 600 square feet in size and is connected to a 1.5-story single-family home at 500 Rayner Avenue. A site plan is attached. Linda's Pizza has operated a carry-out restaurant at this location for over 30 years. Prior to Linda's Pizza, the building housed the Pizza Box, which was located here as early as the mid-1960s. This case was filed on March 7th of 2018. So under surrounding zoning, land use, and character, to the north is single-family residential, and that is developed as residential. To the south, it is zoned R4, low-density multifamily residential, used as educational. That would be the District 86 building. To the east is R4, low-density multifamily residential, used for commercial and residential purposes. And to the west is zoned R4, low-density multifamily residential, developed as residential. Applicable regulations are as noted in the report, including prohibited uses, variation of use standards, and the findings of fact supporting a variation. Under discussion, the petitioners, Jeffrey and Rosaria Marchetti, seek a variation of use for the carryout restaurant located at 723 Taylor Street. A carryout restaurant is a prohibited use in an R4 multifamily residential district. Therefore, it requires the variation of use in order to operate. A carryout restaurant is allowed by right in a B1 neighborhood business zoning district. This corner, Taylor Street and Rayner Avenue, has been a neighborhood business since the early 20th century. In the 1930s, this corner had a confectioner's shop, and the adjacent building at 721 through 719 Taylor Street was a grocery store known as Voitic's, a pizza restaurant located here to the property in the 1960s. The adjacent building at 721 through 719 Taylor continues to have some, commercial space on the first story and an apartment on the second story. There is customer parking for the carryout restaurant in front of the building. If the zoning board desires to approve the variation of use, the following conditions would be included. 1, should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and possible revocation of the variation of use. And that, I believe, is the only condition that was attached. That concludes staff's report.
Not till I ask. Would you raise your hands, please?
Mr. Chairman, before we
Before we take that oath, Mr. Chairman, I'm the attorney, and besides Mr. Marchetti, the owner of the property, we also have the owner and operator of the business, and because you may have a question for him, shall we put him under oath at the same time?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Berman.
Get up there and raise your arms. Do you all swear that the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you. Names and addresses.
Hi, my name is Jeff Marchetti. I live at 2504.
Into the mic, please. We have to record it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Jeff Marchetti. I live at 2504 Chevy Chase Drive, Joliet, Illinois.
My name is Mark Berman, live at 1319 Oneida Street in Joliet, Illinois.
Tom Nolan, my office is at 211 North Hames Avenue in Joliet. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My practice has to do with real estate. Mr. Marchetti is interested in selling this property. He acquired it in 1989 as an investment that has worked out for all concerned. It is now time for him to sell, move on. But connected to that, he entered into a lease with his longtime tenant, Linda's Pizza, and the owner of that is, of course, Mr. Berman here. That protects this tenant should the sale, and they are now discussing terms of a sale with a potential buyer. There had been a previous buyer who couldn't wait for the zoning process, and it was the previous buyer who, making inquiries of the city, discovered that the zoning was not everything it needed to be for this particular use, and the very reason we are here. It seems, and we've heard this from the staff from the city, around 1995, something may have slipped through the cracks, something may have happened. The use was terminated actually by the expiration of the proper zoning at that time. Now that zoning had never been addressed since then. Nobody seemed to notice that it went away, and the business carried on for many, many years until this time now when the property is to be sold. Based on that, yes, we wanted to mention that the property has been licensed to do business in Joliet. It's a food business. It's been engaging with the health department. Has been a good citizen and been a good neighbor for all concerned. But never had there been any notice of a zoning deficiency. But we have it now and we're here. The other thing we wanted to mention was that besides this use, which Mr. Berman has carried on for many, many years, since 1981, before that, as staff research indicated, the property had been long used in the very same use, pizza business, carry out by the pizza box, and before that, it's been commercial forever. It's been over 50 years in this place, in this use. And I think that is the primary argument for its being granted the variation of use that is required at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Questions by the board?
I don't have any questions for the petitioner. I have a question for staff. If this were to be approved today, is it possible, I'm looking at this view of the property from Rayner, looking east, and I'm seeing that the frontage there, the sidewalk in front of the Rayner Avenue portion of it is in pretty bad shape. Is that something that we could put in as a condition to have that sidewalk replaced? Can we do that?
You can attach conditions to a variation.
Is that one that I could attach to that?
You could.
How would you feel about that? Replacing that sidewalk on the Rayner Avenue frontage?
The city's obligation though, or the
Partly city and it's split, isn't it?
We have a 50-50 sidewalk program where it's shared cost.
I owned another property on Taylor Street that was sold to St. Francis College, about 10 years ago. And I did have the sidewalk replaced. I couldn't recall, thank you, that it was 50-50 to have, I had to pay half the expense to have that sidewalk redone.
You can
There's
make
a
that
big
a
tree
condition
there
if you
that's,
want to.
it's waving a bit.
What I might suggest too, we're looking at a photograph here that we don't know how old the photograph is. It may have been Google, it may have been staff who took the picture. If you want to phrase your condition that if you could put the condition and with maybe a caveat that our engineer who handles that program, if he believes that it's necessary, you know, we're looking at it here in this room without actually physically being there, looking at the condition of the sidewalk. So I hate to attach a condition and they're mandated to follow it when we get out there and they say, you know, actually the sidewalk's pretty decent. So I would, if you want to add that condition, if you feel strongly about it.
I think what we're looking for is see if it were necessary that the petitioner would be in agreement to do it.
I'll pay for,
You could put if.
I'll pay for half.
If deemed necessary by
he
the
will
city's
do it. That's
engineering
all we need to
division,
know.
by the Department of Public
Any other
Works.
questions by the board?
Yes, the building, it says in our site-specific information, the residence is connected. Is there a sharing of a passageway or utilities with the two structures?
No.
Okay, it's just built right up next to each other?
They're built next to they're built, they are attached to each other. They do have, I think I would refer to it as a common wall.
All right.
There used to be a doorway there that's been paneled or sealed for at least 30 years, heavily paneled and sealed. And then there was a stairway that went into the pizza place. I believe the pizza box people at one time lived at 500 Rainer, and then they just walked down into the business and ran it, from my recollection. But I've only owned it since '89, so, you know, but anyway, it's sealed, the stairs are gone, and it just has a common wall.
Thank you.
Any other comments by the board? Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Come on up. You know the routine. The evidence you're about to present the truth under penalty of law.
I do.
Name and address.
I'm Bob Knocktrieb, 614 Western Avenue. I'm on the board of the Cathedral Area Preservation Association. I'm the zoning director. The board voted at the last meeting in support of this. Everyone on the board likes Linda's Pizza and would not like to see it leave. Thank you.
I'm glad you're not a vegetarian. I can remember further back than most of you guys. I remember that was Dobbs's grocery store. We used to practice football right there in Farragut Field years ago. Yeah. Okay, anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Chair closes petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll.
Can we add the condition about the sidewalk or not, Ms.
Subject to
Darling?
the conditions that we met that
Is that all right with you, Ms. Darling?
if the engineering decides that they want to fix that walk.
So if I can just reiterate for the record, the condition would be phrased to state, the sidewalk shall be replaced via the 50/50 cost-sharing program, subject to, or at the discretion of the city's engineering division, Public Works Department. Something to that effect? Okay, do you have that? Okay.
Perfect.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Darley?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Moving on, let's see, 2018-16.
Thank you.
RDK Ventures. You want to hear from RDK Ventures? Come on forward. 2018-16.
2018-16, the applicant and owner is RDK Ventures LLC at 3021 Plainfield Road. This is a request for a special use permit and series of variations. The petitioner is requesting a special use permit and a series of variations to allow the redevelopment of the Circle K gas station and convenience store and construction of a new tunnel car wash as an accessory use located at 3021 Plainfield Road. Variations being requested include a building side yard setback for the car wash from 6 feet to 1.4 feet, and a north perimeter landscape area reduction from 10 feet to 2.4 feet. Under site-specific information, the original site was annexed in Zone B3 General Business in 1981 in order to allow construction of a Shell gas station. A vacation of a 0.439 acre portion of Division Street, previously known as Stateville Street, right-of-way, is being heard by the Plan Commission at their meeting this afternoon. This application was filed on March 8th of 2018, surrounding zoning, land use, and character. To the north and east is B3 General Business and Commercial, and to the south is Commercial Zone B2, and to the west is Commercial Zone B2. Applicable regulations include special uses in a business district and criteria for issuance of a special use permit and the B3 General Business District provisions. Under discussion, the petitioner is requesting a special use permit and a series of variations in order to allow the construction of a car wash facility as part of the reconstruction of the Circle K gas station and convenience store. The site plan is attached. The proposed one-car tunnel wash will be located along the east side of the site, adjacent to the Home Depot property line. Approval of a separate drive-through permit will need to be approved by the City Council with the recommendation of the Public Works Department after the zoning approval is completed. The variations or variances for landscape and building setback are necessary due to the small size and irregular lot configuration. The exterior of the proposed buildings will have to meet the city's non-residential design standards, and the landscaping will need to be installed that meets the requirements of the city's landscape and screening ordinance. The petitioner is separately working with ComEd in order to relocate the existing overhead utility lines. If the zoning board desires to approve this special use permit, the following conditions would be included. One, that the new buildings meet the requirements of the city's non-residential design standards ordinance. Two, that a landscape plan be submitted as part of the future building permit that meets the city's landscape ordinance. And three, should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and a possible revocation of the special use permit. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Board. You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Mark Stinson, 550 Warrenville Road, Lisle, Illinois.
Brian Swanson, office at 5291 Zenith Parkway, Loves Park, Illinois.
You have a presentation?
Does this come off by chance? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just have a brief kind of presentation on the site overview, if that works, and we're happy to answer any questions at that point. This is the existing site, really fairly small, roughly under about a half an acre. Just fuel canopy under a small retail operation under the canopy. If you're familiar with the site, a couple outbuildings on the east side. So very small and contained within the site. What's proposed is consistent with the site plan that's in your package. This is just a colorized version of it. Canopy in the front, 6 multi-product dispensers perpendicular to US 30. So with 6 dispensers, there'll be 12 fueling positions. About a 4,400 square foot new convenience store, parking along the front and sides. The new tunnel car wash is mentioned, about 1,300 square feet. Really this new layout, state-of-the-art facilities, brand new, but also allowing for good circulation for automobile and delivery traffic when a tanker truck, for example. These are the underground storage tanks here for fuel. Tanker truck has a good shot to go out here and then can leave back to 30. As the conditions mentioned in the staff report, we're accepting to those. This kind of depicts some of our landscaping design at this point. We're heavily trying to landscape the rear elevation of the wall, which is this area here. We're seeking a variance for your consideration. Also for the car wash as well through that portion. And note everywhere else, aside from that, we are meeting the green space setback on that side too. As mentioned as well, part of this overall development is contingent upon the vacation of right-of-way, which really doubles the size of the parcel. This is not being used, and as mentioned, we're working with utility companies, including NICOR and the phone company as well, to get those utilities relocated. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, unless you want to add anything, Mark?
No, that's covered.
Okay.
Any questions by the board?
Can you show me on there where the entrance to the car wash is and where you see the ingress and egress of the traffic? The cars to be washed.
For the car wash?
Yeah.
Essentially right here on this side. So they would enter this way.
Off of 30?
Correct. So they could queue along this entire area here, which is a fairly substantial area, but cars could stack along here. But
How many cars approximately do you suspect?
Could stack here? I believe 6 to 7, something like that.
And there would only be one lane there though, right?
Correct.
To your point on stacking, we actually upgraded the car wash. This is not what's known as the old rollover car wash where you pull in, your car comes to a halt and the car wash equipment goes back and forth over you. This is going to be a conveyor wash where it will grab the tire of the car and pull it through. Actually, more than one car can be in there at a time.
I just didn't want to see cars.
Yeah, no, that was a concern of ours as well. And we think we've successfully addressed it with the conveyor wash. 18 cars per hour, I think. Something like that, 18 cars an hour that can process through. So it moves cars through pretty quickly.
If you have more cars, would you route them like along Plainfield Road, like coming down near those gas? I'm just thinking of one of the car washes here in town that exists now, and there's certain times when you can't even move in that. I mean, if you want to get gas or you can't get out, you can't get in. That's my concern because.
Yeah, I think what we would see on the busy winter Saturday after a snowstorm is I think we'd see the customers, generally they're going to purchase gasoline when they're getting a car wash, they're going to fill up and they're going to circulate back through like that.
So how many cars would be the capacity that you could have in that arrangement?
Oh, gosh.
Along here, they can stack clear all the
Yeah, I would.
as they rack around.
I don't want to become like Mr. Sub on Jefferson Street.
No, just looking at the scale of it, I would say you could probably have 20 or so wrapped around here fairly easily, and we typically don't see that kind of line because people will leave.
Do you have an outside dry area? Is that what that?
It's inside. It's inside. So as the conveyor pulls you through.
Is there a place where they can towel off and finish it off, or is that just and that's it?
So the design of the wash is they need to get out of the way once they're at the end here, but they could come back around and pull in a parking spot and dry off if they
You don't have dryers yourself? I mean, men who do the drying? No, nothing like that?
No.
And how many cars can fit in that building, that car wash building at once?
I believe it can, and I'm speaking a little out of turn on this, I believe it's 3 can be in there at any given time, and it's going to be partial. So you're going to pull in, your tire's going to get grabbed, you're going to start through. You might be coming out the other end when the third car's entering on the other end. So.
Are you going to have something where they can clean out the interior?
We do have a vacuum. Did we set that over here? Where did we set the vacuum at?
I think it's over.
Because that's going to cause some more cars out there too. Aside from ones going in, people are going to be toweling their cars off or.
Sure. Yeah, let me get the official spot on the vacuum here.
While you're looking at that, Mike, is there a provision to not pull cars out onto the street to be toweled off?
There's no condition recommended for that. The engineering team, Public Works Department has looked at this site plan, and obviously it still has to go through the process, assuming your approval of the requested variances, it still has to go to the city council and be looked at. But no, there's no condition regarding that.
That's why I was asking if you had a toweling area, because in some of the more recent car washes, there's places where you pull up, they provide the towels and the vacuums and all that.
We don't do that, no.
And they, you know, so they don't go back out on the street to dry off. They're staying.
Right, yeah, I guess someone could bring a towel with them. Our vacuum would actually be placed right here, is where we just saw it.
How many vacuums you gonna have?
Just one.
Just one.
It's not the free vac thing where it's at,
What is your rate going to be on the charge for wash?
From
what to what?
It varies by grade of wash. I think it starts out at 7 and goes up to like 13.
Okay. Any other questions?
That once this gets built up, there's no other room now for expansion, right? I mean, this is it. This is what you have to work with.
This is what we have to work with. I wish if there was more land, I'd be looking to acquire it, but,
my concern, I know what how car washes get, and my concern is that it's gonna be, that you're gonna be so successful that it's gonna be a problem with the traffic moving. That's my concern.
So I guess to address that concern, I would state that generally the car wash is a very consistent business, but it's not super busy except for those few days a year after we've had the big storm with all the salt on the road. And Circle K operates 5,000 stores in the States, and we generally see them queue in the lot and work their way through.
Will you have markings on the pavement to show people how to, and that's one of the problems I see at some of the other places, that people just go wherever they want, and there's no really set way to move around the parking lot to get from one spot to another.
Yeah, typically we don't put markings anywhere except over here. It'll say car wash entrance over here. You know, our finding is typically they self-regulate. I see people that purchase a car wash at the pump and go, geez, I don't really want to wait in that long of a line. They'll leave and they'll come back later in the evening when it's less busy.
Any other comments? Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor? I can't see anybody else. Anybody got a hand up? I don't know. Anybody opposed? Chair closes petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Powers?
I'll vote aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Darling?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, John and Kathy Nacios. Petition 2018-17.
Petition 2018-17, the applicant and owner is John and Kathy Nacios. Location is 428 Buell Avenue. The request is a variation to construct a new detached garage. The applicant is requesting a variation on the maximum height of a detached garage from 20 feet to 24 feet in order to construct a new detached garage to replace the existing garage. Under site-specific information, the lot is approximately 132 feet by 153 feet, or 0.46 acres, and contains a 2.5-story single-family residence and a detached garage. The property is currently zoned R-2 single-family residential. Petition was filed on March 6th of 2018. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character. In all directions, single-family residential is the use, and R-2 is the zoning district. Applicable regulations include the provisions for garages and carports. And under discussion, the petitioner is requesting a variation on the maximum height of a detached garage from 20 feet to 24 feet in order to build a new detached garage that is in character with their home and other properties in the Upper Bluff area. The proposed 24-foot by 36-foot 3-car garage will be similar in size to other detached garages and carriage houses in the neighborhood. The new garage will have architectural features similar to the existing house and will use some materials from the original garage, which will be removed. The garage will be located at the southeast corner of the property and use the existing concrete driveway. A plat of survey, elevations, and a floor plan are attached. No conditions are attached to this report, and that concludes staff's report.
Raise your hands, please. You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law.
I do.
Could I have your names and addresses?
My name is Kathy Nashis. I live at 428 Buell.
And my name is John Nashis, and I live at 428 Buell.
Any comments you'd like to make, sir? Okay.
Know
Any questions
anything?
by the board? I'll take that as a no.
I mean, basically, the garage that we have, we bought the property in 2013. The garage, we've had two brick people look at it. Both have told us, I guess you guys had a tornado around here before we got here, and it twisted that garage on its foundation. We haven't had been able to put a car in there, so we don't have any choice but to remove it if we want to have a garage. So we do plan to use the existing brick and put various features of our home into the garage, so it looks like it should be there.
Any comments, questions? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone opposed?
Wait, we have somebody out there.
Oh, is there a hand up? Come on up.
It's Mr. Knocktree again.
You know.
You've already been sworn in, and you always tell the truth, so.
But I wanted to tell a lie this time. Kappa likes every once in a while to be obnoxious and obstructive, and we tried really hard and we could not find any way to, and so we voted unanimously to approve this. Thank you.
Wow, that's a record. Anyone else? Okay, we've done it all. I close petition to the floor and ask the board for discussion and a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the petition. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Darling?
Abstain.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Petition 20, Joliet Jefferson Street LLC contract purchaser. That sounds official.
Petition 2018-18, the applicant is Joliet Jefferson Street LLC, contract purchaser, and the owner is Tri-State Land Partners LLC. Location is 2210 through 2218 West Jefferson Street, and it's a request for a series of variations. The petitioner is requesting variations to allow two main buildings on one lot and on wall signage that does not face a street, and to allow wall signage that does not face a street, in order to allow construction of a Bona Italian beef restaurant and an additional building at the vacant commercial site. Site-specific information, the 1.73 acre site is currently zoned B3 general business. A special use permit was approved in 2015 in order to allow a new Mazda dealership for Hawk Auto. Two existing buildings, a multi-unit commercial strip center and a tobacco shop, were demolished in 2016. The application was filed on March 9th of 2018. Under surrounding zoning, land use, and character, to the north is commercial, zone B3. To the south is residential, zoned R2. And to the east and to the west are commercial, zone B3. Applicable regulations are as noted. And under discussion, the approval of the requested variations would allow the future construction of a 4,080 square foot Bona Italian beef restaurant and an additional unknown commercial building. And there are site plans in your packet at the vacant commercial site. The Bona building, there are elevations included, is proposed to be sited on the plan along the west side of the property. Two options have been provided on the attached site plans for the additional building, which will be sited along the east side of the property. One proposal would be for a 2,100 square foot fast food drive-through restaurant, and the other would be for a 5,600 square foot multi-tenant commercial building. All buildings will meet the requirements of the city's non-residential design standards, and the site will meet their landscaping and screening ordinance. A separate drive-through permit will be required for the Bona drive-through and any additional drive-through that may be proposed on the site. Adequate off-street parking is being proposed for the combined site. The petitioner is also asking for additional wall signage for the Bona building on the east and south side elevations. These require variances because they do not face a street front. The east-facing sign is illuminated and is approximately 38 square feet. The south-facing sign is non-illuminated and is approximately 100 square feet. If the zoning board desires to approve the variations, the following conditions would be included. 1, that the new buildings meet the requirements of the city's non-residential design standards ordinance, and 2, that a landscape plan be submitted as part of the future building permits that meets the city's landscape ordinance. And that concludes staff's report.
Hands up. This is where the evidence you're about presents the truth under penalty of law. May I have your names and addresses?
John Haig, office is at 418 Clinton Place, River Forest, Illinois.
Tim Haig at 418 Clinton Place, River Forest, Illinois.
Okay, do you have a presentation?
We do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I thank Mr. Schwartz and staff for the presentation, the summary. I think what we would like to do is just introduce ourselves as part of Joliet Jefferson Street LLC. This is a partnership formed with members of the Bonavolonto family, which is the principal owners of the Bona restaurants. It's a family-owned business, and myself. And we're prepared to answer any questions you may have. And I would just like to, I guess for the record, if the chairman and the board feels it's appropriate, read our response comments to the 3 criteria for the zoning, or we can submit it in writing, whatever your preference is.
Okay. Any questions? Questions? Did you guys do any marketing studies?
Yes, we do. We have some internal sales projection models that we do. The demographics of Joliet are favorable for our type of business, and we did, it does generate a favorable sales projection.
Because we have several new restaurants being opened in that area on Jefferson Street that are applying. I'm just wondering when it'll be saturated.
Yeah, we do communicate a lot with like-kind restaurants, the fast casual restaurants that have recently opened there, and understand that they're doing a good business.
New object there on Jefferson Street. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Did you raise your hand? No. Chair, close the petition to the floor and ask the board for discussion and a vote.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Call the roll.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Ms. Darley?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Henson?
Aye. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Lisa Williams, petition 2018-19.
Petition 2018-19, the applicant is Lisa Williams. The owner of the property is Walter and Brenda Williams. The location is 503 South Desplaines Street, and the request is a variation of use. The petitioner is requesting a variation of use to allow the continuation of an existing 2-unit building located at 503 South Desplaines Street. The variation of use request must be considered by the City Council following the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under site-specific information, the lot is 58 feet by 100 feet, 5,800 square feet total, and contains a 2-unit residence and a detached garage. Based on city directory data, the property was built as a 2-unit around 1900. In June of 2004, the property was reclassified from R3 1 and 2 family residential to R2 single family residential as part of an effort to match the zoning to the land use in the South Side area. The petition was filed on March 9th of 2018. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character are as follows. To the north is a residential area zoned R2. To the east, residential zoned R2 and R3. To the south and to the west, residential zoned R2. Applicable regulations are as noted in the staff report, including the standards for granting a variation of use. Under discussion, the petitioner is requesting a variation of use to allow the continuation of an existing 2-unit residence in an R2 single-family residential zoning district. Based on available city directory data, the building was built as a 2-unit around 1900. In June of 2004, the city reclassified the property from R3 down to R2 zoning as part of a down zoning effort to conform the zoning to the existing land use in the South Side area. The present owners moved into the property in the late 1970s and have owned it since 1992. According to the petitioner, her family occupied both units after they purchased the property, but did not fully convert the property to single family. An inspector from the Neighborhood Services Division recently inspected the property and confirmed that the building is a 2-unit. Currently, 1 unit is rented and 1 is unoccupied. The owner is working with Neighborhood Services to have the property included in the rental inspection program and is in the process of abating the list of violations from the most recent Neighborhood Services inspection report, which is attached to your memo. The site, which contains a 2-car detached garage and gravel driveway, has sufficient off-street parking for the 2 units. As a condition of approval, the existing driveway will be paved. A plat of survey, floor plans, Neighborhood Services inspection report, and calls for service from 2017 are attached. For conditions that, 1, that the property participate in the rental inspection program, 2, that any existing violations from the recent Neighborhood Services inspection are repaired within 60 days of approval. 3, that the driveway shall be paved within 60 days of approval. 4, that the property shall not be expanded in the future. 5, that off-street parking remains in the future. And 6, should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and possible revocation of this variation of use. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law.
Yes.
May I have your name and address?
Lisa Williams, 1441 Berta Drive, Crest Hill.
Any comments you'd like to make?
I actually thought he was very eloquent in his statement.
That,
It was
right?
more than I expected. Information that I had, and I spoke to the zoning when it was moved in 2014 to a single-family use. That was some information I didn't have, so I was ignorant to that. But I also we didn't understand why it was moved to that, so now I have a better understanding. And from the time I moved in as a child, it had always been a 2-unit because we had 2 upstairs neighbor. Actually, we didn't own it. It was upstairs neighbor, and we lived downstairs. So then my father purchased it some years later, and he removed the appliances upstairs, and we kids wind up living in the upstairs unit without a whole conversion of the building. So when I and my mom agreed to make it another 2-unit, we were ignorant to the fact that it was rezoned in 2004. So that's the reason why. So when they came to inspect, this is why I'm here now, so.
Back in 2004, everyone was given an opportunity to option out of the downzoning, but you had to make a request. And a lot of people didn't understand it and just didn't allow it to happen. So this is a frequent occurrence here in the city where that occurs. Any questions by the board?
Have you started working on the violations list yet, ma'am?
I have, actually, Inspector Amy, I don't know the last name, but her and I are in contact quite a bit.
How far along are we?
Probably a third of the way. I did wanted to wait for some of the plumbing and electrical violations because of whether or not I was going to get the variance. So I wanted to make sure if I did get the variance that I appropriately separate the electric and do it in the right way so everybody, it would be safe and it would be within regulation. So I wanted to kind of wait. I do have 2 bids. They're general bids though, because there's some things we may need to add based on if I get approved of variance. So I kind of wanted to wait just to make sure that, that I can move forward in the right way, I guess.
Yes, thank you.
I just want to get this straight in my head. So it was being used as a single family
For quite some time, yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And it was downzoned because it was used as a single family. I mean, that's how my understanding is.
I'm not sure why it was downzoned.
I mean, if it says to match the land use, then that means that that's why it was zoned that way. I mean, that's what was read in the report.
That's what I read, and that's what,
so
as part of, as Chairman Hennessy indicated, this was part of a larger downzoning. There's a larger downzoning effort, and a lot of these properties.
Whole areas at a time. It wasn't done on an individual basis.
Exactly.
But, right, they downzone large parcels, but not necessarily, well, all right.
And I remember you guys. I grew up that way, you know me.
Yes.
So I'm all for it because I knew it was, you know, that someone lived upstairs before. Your dad's great. Your brother played basketball for Providence. So, yeah, I'm for it.
I appreciate that.
One thing I'll add from staff's perspective, Mr. Chair, Mr. Torrey indicated that the building probably was never fully converted to single family. Their whole family was there in the 2 units using it, but it was always a 2 unit.
But it was a single family unit. It wasn't like your family and then your cousin's family. It was just all your one whole family, right?
I'm not understanding the question exactly.
Well, it was your family, your mother, your father, you, your brothers, your sisters, all in there. It wasn't your mother, your father, you, and then cousins somewhere else. No, it was always one family.
Again, initially, it was a 2-unit building where there was my family, my 2 brothers, and my parents and myself. And then there was an upstairs tenant with her family that lived upstairs. So far as I know, as a child, it's always been a 2-unit. However, when my dad decided to purchase the building, he purchased it after he found out that the upstairs tenant was moving already, made a deal with the current landlord, from my understanding and my recollection, to just purchase the whole building, and we lived in it as a family. It was never cousins or...
Right.
Yeah, no ma'am. It was never other people. It was just our family at that time. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments?
What are current plans? Just who lives in the, who lives there now?
The bottom unit is empty, and the top unit is a family member.
Okay.
Yes.
So you will not live there at all?
It's been a consideration, but right now I can't say yes. I'm not going to live there at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are the owner, so this will not be owner occupied?
It won't be owner occupied, no.
And it's not for sale?
It's not for sale.
Any further comments? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Chair closes petition, asks the board for discussion on the motion.
I move to approve, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add one condition that Ms. Williams participate in the Joliet Police Tenant Screening Program. That's it.
Okay.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, subject to the conditions as stated. Call the roll.
Ms. Starley?
No.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
No.
Mr. Briggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
For sure, aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you. Okay, now we go to this new business, non-public, no public hearing. You want to give a short speech on all this stuff, Michael?
So the city manager, based on past practice that he is familiar with and looking at other communities, my understanding of this is that all of the city's boards and commissions will now follow this format of agenda, and it's consistent with how the city council agenda has been formatted. So in other words, at the beginning of the meeting, there's an opportunity from the public to be heard under citizens to be heard. They are then, during each petition, since you pretty much for the most part, with some exceptions for the most part, everything that comes before you is a public hearing individually. And then at the end of the agenda, there are opportunities again for public comments. And that might be something of general nature regarding the zoning ordinance that has nothing to do with anything on the agenda as part of a case. So I know it's a little confusing. It may seem redundant. I understand that. But this is the format moving forward. I can't change it. It's consistent with the Plan Commission. It's consistent with the City Council. So what we'll do is you'll have to, since you finished this last case, 2018-19, you'll then say, okay, the next item is item 6 of the agenda, new business, with having no public hearings. Well, we typically don't have any. Typically, we won't have any new business that's a non-public hearing item. But you may still read that or say, just say it out loud, we have no business that considers no non-public hearings.
And I have to read those, right?
Yeah, and then you'd say our next item of order on the agenda is item 7, under old business, public hearings. We don't have any cases that were continued, so that's going to be a blank. And then the final, before the adjournment, is you're opening up for public comment. Anyone wanting to speak on non-agenda items, you're allowed 4 minutes.
Does that have to relate to zoning, or can it be on any subject in the world?
It technically could be anything. It's a public meeting.
Do we have any discretion in allowing it? I mean, what if it's something just ridiculous or ludicrous that they bring in?
We may have to have a little more input from our corporation counsel on that. I think.
They have to make requests ahead of time.
If it's anything vulgar, that kind of thing, objectionable, there may be some discretion. You're the chair, so I think you can limit people to the 4-minute rule, and that's consistent with the other city council.
Do they have to notify us ahead of time that they're going to speak?
No.
Anybody can just walk in and say, I want to give a speech.
It's a public meeting, and they do have the right to make comments. You're representing the zoning, as a zoning board, you are not only charged with reviewing each individual case that comes forward. You may have people say, you know, I don't like this provision in the zoning ordinance. I think you should take a look at it. Or I don't like that. Or, you know, whatever topic, it is open, and you can use some discretion. I don't want to say that it can only be limited to zoning topics, because that's a slippery slope. Someone may just want to start talking about development and how what your role is in approving development. So that's my understanding of why the agenda was changed and where we are.
What if somebody came in and wanted to talk about an hour and a half about the bridges going up?
4 minutes.
Do we have to sit and listen to that?
4 minutes.
4 minutes? 4 minutes. But they have a right to speak.
They have a right to speak, and you can use some discretion if it's something objectionable. I think you have the right to maybe intervene, hear them out, or interrupt, say, you know, I'm sorry, is it something germane to what we're charged with? But you don't have to respond. It's just letting them. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. You're letting them have their say.
And there's, what, the 4 minutes, is that the?
That's the accepted. Some towns it varies, but 4 minutes is what is on here, because I think that's what's been put on the council and on the plan commission agenda as well. Okay. So everyone's getting accustomed to this. It's, you get 3 opportunities, right? You have your beginning of the meeting, your citizens to be heard. Maybe they want to speak on a case that's before you, but they have to run. And they can maybe say, you know, I object to case number such and such, but I'm catching a plane, I need to run. They have an opportunity right at the beginning of the meeting to speak. And then you get into the case and you call people up at each individual public hearing. And then at the end of the meeting, you have one more shot, and it's it's public comments, and it can be on anything, limited to 4 minutes.
And once people start speaking, do we have, let's say there's 100 people here and they all want to speak.
They're allowed 4 minutes.
We insist that they don't say anything repetitive, or?
I haven't yet heard, or maybe you've been here a lot longer than I have, if we've had 100 people here for a non-agenda item. That doesn't happen very often, so I don't see that being an issue.
This is trial by error, huh? Okay. All right, so can we, let's see, we've already done the minutes, so all we need now is a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Did we?
You have to call for those public comments.
Oh, we got to call all those?
Call for those
I went through them, but I want you to get accustomed to it. So maybe just again, read out loud. We're at part 6 of the agenda. We have no non-public hearings for new business.
Item 6, we have new business, no public hearing. Anyone here? Under item 7, old business, public hearing. Anyone want to talk? Under item 8, old business, no public hearing. Anyone else want to talk? Under 9, public comments. Anyone have any comments? Not even the board has any comments. Adjournment, item number 10. All those in favor of adjournment, so signify.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Mary Beth, you missed out on something there. You could have come up.
Could have come up and said whatever you wanted.
Hours at different times.
They're all yours there for a second.
For 4 minutes.